Welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This is the show to encourage you to live your life to the fullest and do fun work that fuels your lifestyle. Hi, I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. Every week, you'll be introduced to amazing guests, useful resources, and inspirational stories. You'll discover opportunities and perspectives to shape your version of living full and working fun. Hi there, and welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. If this is your first time here, thanks for joining me and checking out the show. And if you're returning, welcome back. It's always so great to have you with me. Now, are you a part of the Live Full Work Fun community yet? If not, be sure to hop over to Facebook and join the Live Full Work Fun Facebook group. You know, there are times that you meet somebody and simply just being in the same room with them, you just get energized and you're inspired. Well, that's the case with today's guest. Recognized as a courageous and passionate communicator, Molly Grisham's work is rooted in experiential learning and designed to inspire and set people in motion. And that is an understatement. Molly is passionate about building teams, developing leaders, creating custom workshops, and utilizing personality assessments for personal growth and professional development. Molly brings the experience of 20 years of athletic coaching, an entrepreneurial spirit of a successful business builder, communication skills of an author and storyteller, and 10 plus years as an adjunct communication professor to every client engagement. She has helped athletes reach and exceed personal goals, teams become more productive, leaders achieve new heights, and companies to be more competitive in their markets through highly experiential programs. Molly has developed her facilitation skills by participating in trainings hosted by Train for Change, the Center for Courage and Renewal, the Circle Center, and the Experiential Training Institute at Onsite. Additionally, she has completed training as a civil and family mediator. She's a Level 1 certified experiential specialist with the International Society for Experiential Professionals, a member of the International Association of Facilitation, and a certified Myers-Briggs facilitator. Even though you can't see her in this episode, you can certainly hear and feel her energy and her love of what she does that fuels her full life. Molly, thanks so much for joining me today. It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be a fun conversation.
I said a little bit about you in the introduction, but can you share a little bit about yourself that may have not been included in your regular bio?
Sure. So my journey has been an interesting one. My path has not been like up and to the right. It's been a little bit more of a zigzag. So really the first 20 years of my career, I was in higher education. I was teaching communication classes as well as coaching college soccer. And the last part, I was just full-time coaching and I loved it. There were lots of days where I thought, this is all I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But what I knew about coaching, or what I came to know about coaching, was that what I loved about it was developing my players as people. And that was becoming a smaller and smaller and smaller part of my job description. In fact, you kind of had to like really dig through my contract to figure out where does it say I'm supposed to help them get better. And so I began to think about like, could I create a career for myself where that's all I did? I just helped people grow. Is that even possible? And so that seed started to plant in my mind. And as I thought about it, it became a question of, well, does it have to just be sports? And does it even just have to be soccer? Could it be a wide variety of sports? And then does it have to just be sports? And all of these ways that I could just help people grow and develop and be better. So 5 years ago, I walked into my AD's office and I quit. I don't really advise everyone to just go quit your job, but I knew what was coming for me. I knew that I had to pursue it. And it felt like a bigger risk to stay with what I knew than to try the unknown. So the risk of staying felt greater than the risk of going because I knew I could always come back. I could always go back to coaching and teaching. That was always going to be there for me. But I didn't know if this momentum, excitement, pull, interest would come back around again. So I now work with teams all over the country in all different industries. Just this morning, I was talking with some people in the medical industry. I've got a call tomorrow with some people in the real estate industry and another call in the afternoon in athletics. But it's really anybody who just wants to be better at what they do and needs some resources and needs a guide and needs some tools. I get to come along and be a part of their journey and just help them be better. And it has been an incredible ride for me so far.
Awesome. In 2016, when you went in and said, hey, I quit, was there a tipping point? Was there something that is like, hey, I have this opportunity that I just need to go for it? Or there was something so frustrating that I knew I just had to take that leap and just go? Was there something pivotal that happened?
I can't say that it was one defining thing. It just kept building and building and building. And I found myself the big part of college athletics is you're out recruiting. And so Friday afternoon wraps up and you get in your car and you go on the road and you go sit at soccer tournaments all day, Saturday and Sunday. And then you come back in Monday morning and you're in the weight room at 6 a.m. with your team. And I think I really noticed how much time I was spending recruiting and not spending time with my team, really helping them develop and helping them get better. And I didn't see a path where that was going to change. I didn't see that college athletics, there wasn't something on the horizon that was going to move us back in a healthier direction. And to me, it felt really futile to just try to change a system that wasn't going to change. And so I needed a new system. I needed a new framework. I needed new space to work in. And I knew that if I was that exhausted as a coach, gosh, man, if I had somebody on my side, like this outside consultant who could help me be better, it would have changed my experience as a coach. And so I couldn't do both. I couldn't create that for myself. I couldn't be that for myself. And so I knew I needed to walk away from that, a system that is very broken, a system that really does wear people down, and have a chance to walk alongside of them. So it wasn't one moment. It was just clarity around the fact that this system isn't going to change until I get out of it and then come back in from a new perspective and try to help things be better.
You said a little bit on who you serve, but how do you help them?
So my work is what would be called experiential facilitation, which really is saying we learn best by doing. And so rarely do I come in and just lecture a group. A lot of times people will say like, oh, we had this professional development speaker and they just talked to us for 3 hours and we got nothing out of it. That's not my approach. My approach is to get a group in a room and let's start doing activities together. Let's go through tools and processes where you have what I would call your own light bulb moment. That moment where like, oh my gosh, I saw myself in a way I've never seen myself before, or I realized this skill that I have that I've never realized before, or my coworker who I thought I couldn't stand, I just realized we're two really, really different people. And it's not that our personalities don't get along. It's just the way we're wired is so different. And I didn't know that before. And so when we let people experience tools and activities and processes, they get to own those light bulb moments versus me saying, I'm the speaker and I'm going to tell you what you need to know. It just doesn't stick. And that really ties back to my work in athletics and in the classroom. If you came to me and said, Molly, I know it's a little late in life, but I think I want to be a great soccer player. The first thing I would do is say, we got to get you a soccer ball. Like, let's give you a soccer ball and let's go out there and let's start kicking it around. Yes, you'd probably need to read some books and watch some games and maybe watch some YouTube videos on techniques, but that wouldn't work at all if we didn't give you a ball and take you out there and let you do it. So to me, the same thing applies with communication and overcoming adversity and conflict resolution. When we can put people in an environment where they get to do things that cause them to go, oh gosh, how did I not know that about myself? Okay, I'm better because I now know that. Then they get to own their journey and own their process.
I love that. I had the privilege of being a part of one of your presentations, and it was so interactive. And me, who likes to be a wallflower, I'll just say it's like, you made it feel very comfortable because I am one that is like, oh, please don't call on me. Please don't call on me. Or do we have to do something? I'm sure that I'm not the only one, but I love how you worked through and everybody participated in that room. And it was just so meaningful. And I believe, yes, you do learn by doing, but how do you approach folks like me that are kind of scared to speak up or scared to participate or just shy?
So a big part of it is, how do I start the session? Because you, along with lots of other people, walk in with your guard up. You're thinking, who's this stranger? What's she going to force us to do? I don't know if I don't want to be here. Is it going to be manufactured vulnerability that I don't want to participate? Like, you walk in with all of these thoughts in you, and we can't get to the learning if all of that is bubbling up for you. So we got to address that right out of the gate. So there's a couple of things I probably said in that session. One would be, everything is an invitation, not an expectation. And so as soon as I say that, I watch about half the room just go, oh, like their shoulders are like, okay, thank you. She's not going to make us stand on a table and do a trust fall. Like, okay, I get to choose what I want to be a part of today. Let people, give them the reins on that. The second thing I may have said is, being present is a form of participation. And I am exhausted by what I would call manufactured vulnerability, which is, I'm going to force you to do something that's going to make you really uncomfortable. So it comes across as emotional. And then we say, look, we all cried together. We must have got better. Well, we didn't. We were just uncomfortable and we cried. We didn't get any better there. And sometimes all you can do is just stay in the room. That's it. That's all I have today. I can just be here. That's all I have to give. Well, being present is a form of participation. You stayed in the room. Thank you for being present in that way. And the reality is, for people like you, and really for people like me, I would put myself in that same category, is we need people who will listen. We need people who can be, as you said, the wallflower, who can step back and observe and notice some patterns and trends and what's going on beneath the surface. And sometimes those people will say nothing for hours, and then they'll ask one question at the end, or they'll make one comment at the end. It's just like the bow that kind of wraps it all up. Like, oh, okay, she's not going to get a trophy for talking the most today, but my goodness, that one sentence or that one piece of awareness really added so much to the dynamics of the group. But most people who do team building, it's all about extroversion. It's the loudest voice in the room. It's the most energy. And that's just not how I operate. My work is very much inward. It's about realigning what I would call your interior world and your exterior world. So does who I am on the inside match how I show up in the world? And a lot like I say, it's a lot like going to a chiropractor. Like, we get out of alignment. We got to go to a chiropractor and get things adjusted. We have to do that work for ourselves. We got to keep realigning our interior and exterior worlds. And that requires some self-reflection, and that requires some small groups, and that requires writing, and that requires images, all the stuff that you saw in that session. Just being super creative in how to let people process their own inner world in a way that matters to them.
You have worked in sports and team building in the sports realm for so many years, and you got away from the individual team member development. I mean, working in sports and to be able to function as a team, function as a one unit, not one individual just like bulldozing over everybody else. I am sure that you have learned a lot in trying to coordinate a team unit. How do you translate that into a business setting?
It is 100% transferable. Everything that we're doing in athletics transfers to every other industry that I work with. It's fascinating to me. The only difference might be, I'm not going to say to a group of medical professionals, all right, I'll see you in the weight room at 6 a.m. Like that's not going to happen. But understanding how leadership impacts a group, understanding how conflict resolution impacts a group, understanding our commitment to our core cultural values, how that impacts a group. I think that a lot of times when people think of team building, they do think of a trust fall or some sort of physical activity together. But to me, team building is ultimately two things. It's skill building and it's relationship building. And that's you take the best teams in college athletics, they know what their skills are and they understand relationships. Because when the pressure is on, when the game's on the line and there's 5 seconds left, they know like, okay, what's everybody's skill and how are we interconnected? That translates to every other industry. What are our skills and what are our relationships so we can navigate things that come up? And so when you break it down for people like that, they start to realize, oh yeah, you're right. Like I don't have to do everything because I've got 10 teammates that all have different skills and I have different relationships with each of them. But if we can leverage those, it puts us in a position to be very, very successful.
With the pandemic, and organizations kind of needed to make some big pivots and big shifts. Have you noticed anything of all this turmoil, I guess you could say, affecting team culture in organizations? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I've done more conflict resolution sessions in the last 6 months than I have in the last 5 years. I think that a lot of stuff came to the surface. We couldn't hide behind a lot of our issues anymore. We couldn't hide behind the tension. We couldn't hide behind unhealthy relationships. And I think in many ways, what the pandemic has done is we say things like we're all experiencing this together or we're all in this together. But the reality is we're all experiencing a pandemic, but we're experiencing it very differently. And so I have an activity that I have people do where they're drawing they're thinking about their life as a metaphor of being in a boat right now. And I ask them to draw what's your boat like and what's the water like that you're in. And for some people, this pandemic has been like being in a cruise ship out on open water. And others have been in a life raft and the waves are just crashing. And so to give people some space to talk with their colleagues about what has this experience been like for you? If you are a single parent now working from home with multiple kids trying to Zoom school from home, that's a very different experience than a coworker that maybe doesn't have kids or maybe was able to go into the office a few days a week. We're just having very different experiences. And that's created a lot of tension, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of you don't know me, you don't know what my experience was. Well, what an opportunity to bridge that gap and to really know people on a much deeper level. And again, that translates to all of our work relationships. And when those relationships and the skill building is healthy, we're in a good position to move forward as a group.
And you've transitioned because you do a lot of public speaking and hands-on training. That's what you do. So you needed to pivot a little bit and figure out the virtual space. What kind of challenges did you have there and how did you overcome them?
I essentially had to recreate my business to be an online business. And that was exhausting. I am grateful now because I'm really in a good position. If a client calls and says, we can't afford the flight and the airfare or the flight and the hotel, can you do something remotely? I can say yes, with confidence. I have some really, really good things. But what I basically had to do was look at the tools that I used face-to-face and figure out how do I recreate those digitally? Because what I noticed was so many people in my position thought, well, I'll just log on to Zoom and do what I normally do. And it didn't work. It just didn't work. And so someone like me that's very hands-on, I had to figure out how am I going to recreate this to be highly experiential, highly interactive. I want, when a group works with me, I want to look at the clock and say like, gosh, guys, our 2 hours is up. And I want to see them go, are you serious? Like, there's no way this has been 2 hours. So I had to be really, really intentional about how do I take these tools and recreate them. In fact, I think you experienced one of them in Nashville when we were together. There's a tool that I have where I will set out on a table about 300 different photographs and I'll give people different prompts. So maybe I'll be working with a group and I'll say, what does healthy communication look like in this organization? And they'll go back and look at all these hundreds of photographs and people will come back and say like, I think this is what healthy communication looks like, or I think this is what it looks like. And they can talk through it. I thought, well, I can't do that. I mean, we're all on Zoom. It just won't work. I thought, wait a second. I can create a web page with hundreds and hundreds of photos and put numbers on them and let people pull that up on their device. Yes, we can do that exact same thing. And so I had to deal with my own limiting beliefs of what can and can't be done. And then I just had to figure out how do I leverage technology to make this happen? So it's been really rewarding. I think the part I struggle with is I was forced to do it. It would have felt different if that was my choice. If I had said, I'm going to spend the next 6 months creating business B, that's an online business here, but I didn't have that option. I had to do it. Everything just shut down. I had no face-to-face work for over a year and had to figure out, how are we going to do this?
How are you going to do it? I'm so glad that how you pivot and how you made it happen, and just setting aside is like, okay, we've got to reinvent ourselves. And even if you weren't forced to, would you have been where you are today? So it's just interesting how life's journey just kind of meanders, like you said at the beginning. It's not a straight line. It is quite a curvy road. You say a lot that we have the opportunity to create a new leadership standard where human capital is our most valued asset. Can you expand further on that?
Yeah, I think I have a different approach on leadership, and leadership is really important to me because while my work often starts with a team, a lot of times as we unpack things, we realize, okay, leadership is directly impacting this group in some negative or positive ways. And so that becomes kind of one of the offshoots of things that I work with groups. But I think culturally, we don't value human capital. we value, what will that human do for this organization? How much money will they make for us? What doors will they open for us? And I think really healthy organizations and really healthy leaders understand that their people are their most valuable resource. And when we will take the time to invest in our people and just pour into our people, they'll give us everything back. Again, it comes back to my sports background. You hear it all the time when players say, like, I'll do anything for that coach. I will run through a brick wall for that coach. That's because that coach believes in you as a person before they believe in you as a player. I have witnessed that for 20 years, that when I could really get an athlete to understand, I am on your side, I absolutely love you, let's go tackle this problem together, they do anything for me. And the same applies in the business industry, but we don't often enough view our people as our most valuable asset. We really think about what's their outcome, what's the output, what can they give us as being the most valuable. And we've got to flip that around. We've got to see that the humans are the most valuable asset that we have.
Well, in my corporate experience, sometimes there were times that I felt like I was just a number in the corporate whole organization, and my talents and my contributions were, well, I mean, it was just my feelings weren't appreciated. Do you think that as a whole pandemic thing happening, that the workforce is demanding more of, hey, I'm not a number, I can contribute and you better treat me differently? So that's got leadership, like, I don't even know what to do for some of the hard-nosed number, type of leadership positions.
Yeah. And I think what we're going to see on the other side of this, whenever we get to the other side of this, is we're seeing it a little bit collectively right now, where there are just restaurants that can't open because they don't have workers. Like, we're starting to realize, we've got some really broken systems in our country. If we can't open our restaurant because we don't have enough workers, something's broken in the system here. So I think it's going to be really interesting to think about, how do leaders navigate employees that do want to continue to work from home, or want a hybrid model, or don't want to work 9 to 5. They'd rather work 5 to 2 in the morning. Like, what is that flexibility going to look like going forward? And I think that the leaders that are really willing to innovate and are really willing to say, like, let's just clear the slate and let's see what is best for my people, those are the industries that are going to thrive. I don't think any leader can say to their people, starting on this date, we're all going to be back in the office 9 to 5, as always, back to how it was, as we're hearing people say. People have got a taste of life being different. And we've realized we can work remotely. There are lots of industries who have not had their employees in the office for a year and a half, and they're okay. So those leaders that are really willing to have an open mind about that and let go of the systems and structures in a way that empowers their people. If you are very outcome driven, if you're all about the bottom line, well, great, downsize your office because people want to work from home. That'll save you some money. They're like, let go of some of those rules that you have of this is how it has to be. And instead flip that around and say, how can I set my people up for success? Because then it will drive the bottom line. No question about that.
You had mentioned that you've been doing a lot of conflict resolutions lately. So is that some of the conversations that are coming out is like, hey, leadership, this is what we need. We need to together reinvent how we work together, not necessarily the traditional punch in the clock or, there's just a whole slew of traditions. I don't remember who I was talking with, but just I think it was Henry Ford era that started the 40-hour work week. And before that, it was like work 24/7 in the coal mines, so things had to change. But that was I don't know, maybe that was the last big major type of shift in our workforce of the idea of a 40-hour work week. And now it's different. What if we can be more efficient in less time and not strapped to a cubicle? It's just very fascinating. I don't have any of the answers.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be a competitive recruiting advantage, maybe. If I'm not happy in my job, but I know that same industry down the road will let me work from home 2 days a week, they may not give me a salary increase, but if they'll pay me the same thing and give me the thing that I want that sets me up for success, yeah, I'm going to leave. Well, why not go? So I think for so long, it was all about salary. I think people are going to be asking other questions in terms of their flexibility, where they can work from, what that environment looks like for them. And I think it opens the door for people to have a deeper awareness of how am I at my best? Like I've gotten a taste of something different and I'm starting to realize, in fact, I was working with a marketing agency and they said that their organization removed all cubicles and all offices and just set up one large table in a room and all the employees work there. And they were saying, it's not working for about half of us. Like it wouldn't work for me. There's no way I could sit in an open area and there's no way. And so while it was very hip and kind of looked cool, it wasn't working for half the people. And so what are those things now that people are going to say that doesn't work for me anymore? I did it because I had to do it that way. I went into the office because I had to. I worked 9 to 5 because I had to, but that's not me at my best. And I want to be at my best. And if you can't give that to me, let me go shop around and see if I can find somebody else that's willing to be a little bit more open-minded about that.
What do you believe is maybe the highest quality that a leader should have in creating cultural change for the good?
Yeah, I believe that leadership is not about creating more followers. It's about creating more leaders. And so can we step back as a leader and realize that's the biggest pat on the back we can get is when our people get better. And unfortunately, too many leaders are intimidated by that. Like they're asking questions I can't answer. They're advancing in their careers. They're taking more classes. They're getting better. And that leader feels so insecure about that. But to me, the best leaders are excited by that. Like I just love it. Again, it comes back to that phrase, the light bulb moments. But when somebody gets something for the first time and it makes them better, I don't feel insecure about that. I feel like I've done my job to help somebody be at their very best. So to me, when a leader is insecure about other people being successful, that's a big red flag.
Funny that you say that, because early in my career, in my early 20s, I had this manager that she was this little petite Chinese woman that I was so intimidated by and scared by, but she was the best boss ever. And you get to know her, but she was in business. She had high expectations. And the best thing, if you did something wrong, she'd set you down and say, okay, what was your thought process? She'd listen. She'd say, all right, I see where you're coming from, but I would do it this way. And so you had, even though this young 20-year-old was kind of intimidated by someone, and I'm 5'3", she was shorter than me. So it was, It's like, but it was funny. But the thing that stuck out with me with her, and that has come 25 years later or more, that it's just, she thought it was the highest compliment if one of her people were transferred up, were promoted up somewhere else. She gave us all those opportunities to do that. So that just made her a better leader, and the whole team.
Everybody gets better.
Everybody
gets better. Yes.
Yes. That's just struck out when you were talking to me about that. What is your biggest reward for doing what you do?
I feel like I can look back so many times on my career and think, gosh, I wish I had somebody in my corner. Just somebody that could shine a light on what was going on, or give me a tool, or give me I just need a crutch. Somebody help me along here. And that's what I get to do for people. I work with some really elite level athletic teams. I work with some corporate groups that are really, really successful. But I also work with the teams that say, if something doesn't change, we're all getting fired in 6 months. If something doesn't change, everybody's going to quit. We're miserable. Can you do anything for us? And to come alongside those folks and give them a shot in the arm and be that support system for them and help them own their journey, what more could I ask for? I love it.
I'm just looking at you, and I can just see you glowing on how happy you are in what you do. Yeah, there's challenges. You had a big challenge growing a business is just hard.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. But with all the hard that goes into building a business, is it worth it?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. And I'm so grateful, because I realize it doesn't work out for most businesses. I mean, statistically, most people who start their own business, it doesn't work. And here I am 5 years into it, almost 2 years into a global health crisis, and I'm doing it. Like, okay, this must be the path for me, because there's just a million reasons why it shouldn't work. And it is working. And it is a lot of work. There's no question about that. But on the days when I get to see somebody get better, be better, feel healthier, that's all I need.
It's the spark that keeps you going in the hard times. Yeah. Molly, I would love for you to share maybe your favorite resource or book that has made a difference for you professionally or personally, either one.
I'm a voracious reader, so my mind is spinning at the moment. If I had to choose one leadership book, I would probably say Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, had a profound impact on me. I just kind of read that book at the right time of my life. Like, oh, yep, these are my people. This makes a lot of sense to me. But I'm going to add a second to that had a profound impact. And that was Henry Cloud's book, Necessary Endings. I read that prior to leaving my coaching career. And it just gave me a framework to think about, how do I tie this up, this season of my life, so that I can move on to the next thing in a really healthy way? Again, the timing for that book was really important for me.
Awesome. Well, Molly, it has been a delight for you to be with me today. And how do people stay in contact with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to my website, mollygrisham.com. From there, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find my YouTube channel as well. And if you're a voracious reader or want to be a reader and don't know where to start, I've got a pretty overwhelming book list on my website as well. And certainly if people like what I'm about, just click on the subscribe to my light bulb moments. And every 2 weeks, I'll send you some insights and some observations about things that are going on in the world that I can share with you, but would love to have anybody join me on that list.
I appreciate doing what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it, because it's energizing for me as well.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here with me today. Let's continue this conversation. Hop over to Facebook and post what your biggest takeaway in today's show was in the Live Full and Work Fun Facebook group. The link is right down there in the show notes. And also in the show notes, if you just scroll down just a little bit, you'll see all the links to stay connected with Molly. Now, I follow her on Instagram, and I always love seeing her post. She gives me a boost of energy and motivation every time I see a post of hers. Well, I do hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'd love for you to do me this tiny favor. Please share this episode just by sharing the link, maybe texting it to somebody that you might find that today's message would be helpful to them. I'd love it if you do it. Well, thanks again for listening. Until next time, have a fantastic week. Live full and work fun.